This video is going to be an introduction to the Pythagorean Theorem. Okay, before we do the Pythagorean Theorem, there's a few things we want to say about, so let me, this triangle here. Okay, there's my triangle. That's a right triangle, and what that means, that little square down there, we should all know that that's going to mean that that thing is, this angle is 90 degrees, and to represent that we put a little square down there typically. Okay, and that's going to be called a right triangle. And over here, opposite of the 90-degree angle, that is called the hypotenuse. And the other two sides are called legs. And typically we'll refer to the legs as A and B. This side is A, call this side B, and call the hypotenuse C. Okay? So that's the big deal there. And with the Pythagorean Theorem, money shot here, it is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So it's always the sum of the legs, A squared plus B squared, equals the square, or the sum of the squares of the legs equals the square of the hypotenuse. Okay? So A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So let's assume here that, well, let's look at what we have here. Let's say A equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A equals 5 and B equals 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's find the length of C. Okay? So if A is 5, it's going to be 5 squared plus B is 4. That's 4 squared equals the hypotenuse squared is C squared. So we get, let's see on my calculator. I have to pull it up again. I shut the computer down a while ago. So accessories, calculator. Is there a square button on here? I don't believe so. So let's say this is 5 times 5 plus 4. Oops. Plus 4 times 4 equals C squared. Okay, now remember, with our order of operations, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So we have to multiply before we can do any adding. Multiplication comes first, so we have to multiply 5 times 5 and 4 times 4. 5 times 5 is 25. 4, oops, clear, 4 times 4, 16. So it's going to be 25 plus 16 equals C squared. So I get 25 plus 16. 25 plus 16 is 41. 41 equals C squared. And now I want to know what C is. I don't know. I'm not interested in what C squared is. I want to solve for C. Okay? But we've got C squared. Anytime you have something squared, to reduce it to just C, or if it's x squared or n squared or whatever it is, to get rid of that square, simply take the square root of both sides. Okay? And now we're going to get that C equals the square root of 41. And let me get an approximation of that. Clear on my calculator. Where's my square root? There it is. Square root of, do 41 and then get the square root. Okay. There we go. So it's about 6.403. 6.403. And that is going to be my hypotenuse. And let's say we're in feet here. Feet. And it's going to be 6.403 feet. Okay. So let's say this again. The Pythagorean Theorem. We have a right triangle. That's where we have 90 degrees here. Once we have a right triangle, the two sides that we call the legs, that is the side, or the sides adjacent to the right angle, we call those the legs. The sum of their squares, a squared plus b squared, equals the hypotenuse squared, and the hypotenuse is always directly opposite of the 90 degree angle. This is a very, very powerful theorem, and is one of the most useful ideals that humans have ever discovered. And that's going to conclude this introduction to the Pythagorean Theorem.